Tindamari. Well, as I said, brothers and sisters, we're blessed to have with us on the line from the United Snakes none other than Mama Marimba Ani. Tindamari, greetings and welcome to Africa Speaks, Mama Marimba.
Oh, Hotep, thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure having you on our program once again. And you know you are treasured in the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement. I'm sure you know that.
No, I appreciate it.
Our spiritual leader, brother leader, Mbandaka is here. Brother leader?
Tindamari, wonderful to hear your voice, Mama Marimba, and to feel your awesome spirit.
It's great to hear you as well. Thank you.
Oh, bless you, bless you. Tindamari.
Tindamari. Mama Marimba, it was really good news to hear that you have been, well, you joined the fold of the UNIA and have been appointed as none other than the ambassador of Race First and Social Development. Sovereign Development.
Yeah, that's very important.
Sorry.
Word in that concept. That's who I am.
Right, okay.
That's who Garvey was.
Right. Could you, Mama Marimba, just enlighten us as to why you felt it important to take on such a role in such an organization?
Well, let me say this, and Baba Baye will affirm this. He was after me for quite some time to become an ambassador, and so it took some convincing, and I'm like that because I have to. For me, it has to be more than something for show, more than a title, because I'm not. You know, I don't, my ego does not need that if I have one at all. So it's got to be about work. And because of the work that I see in UNIA, and more importantly for me, the work that I see that is necessary, that's why I took it on. I see my role. Is the term development is there, and that's extremely important. And for development, you need to move. You can't be stagnant. UNIA to be what it needs to be, and clearly the concept, the vision of a sovereign African people throughout the world is something that pushes us to. It's a goal that pushes us to do our best work, as Nana John Henry Clark say. I think one of the phenomenal things about Mr. Garvey was his vision and his understanding that African people needed to have a government of their own. That was the hard line position that he took, was that nobody else could help us do what we had to do. Nobody else could represent us. Nobody else had our interests at heart. He believed in self-reliance of African people, self-determination, and of the goal of sovereignty. So that's my role, and it's, that's a big job, but that's UNIA, as I've said before, got their marching orders from none other than the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And so we can't settle for anything less than that.
Okay, that is wonderful. So Race First and Sovereign Development,
Right.
Right. Could you just develop on that for us in sort of layman's terms for us, please?
I'm not sure. I didn't hear you clearly, but race first. That is the advantage, I think, of UNIA-ACL has inherited that ideology. That if anything is a religion, that is for us, is for Garvey, is race first. Once you have that as your the kind of bottom line, then you're clear. And you're clear in terms of who you organize, what you organize them for, why you organize. That's our ideology, is race first. So, and I'm feeling that that's the advantage that UNIA has at this point in time, is that there is so much confusion among African people, wherever they are, especially on the continent. Certainly in the United States and also in UK, throughout where we are scattered or have been scattered or have settled, is that there are people who mean well and who are doing good work, but if you don't organize it under a structure, so to speak, and are able to then an infrastructure that is based on a solid principle of race first, then it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go where we need to go. And I think, I will see that it is my job to remind us daily of that, because I am a race woman.
All right.
And UNIA needs to be made up of race people.
Right.
Race first ideology, people who are very clear on that. So the organization itself, has to define itself in those terms, and that will give us clarity, and it will give us consistency, and that is what Marcus Mosiah Garvey gave us. That really is few others have done. Let me put it that way.
Right. Okay, we give thanks for that. Just clarify for us sovereign development, and what areas would you be sort of focusing on? Because obviously there are a number of areas where we do need this particular area of development.
What we have to understand is, and I think that is what is happening under the present administration, under Senghor Baye and others, is that the membership of UNIA is once again growing. The number of divisions are growing. The areas which are covered, that is throughout what I call, instead of saying diaspora now, I say Bibi Mine, which are the seeds of Africa. Wherever we are spread, we are the seeds of Africa.
Okay.
That is important, and that's what's happening now. That is a phase in which there's like a rebirth in terms of the numbers, in terms of the influence, and in terms of the spread of the organization. What Garvey did was to have a visible presence in many of our neighborhoods, but especially I can look at Harlem. I'm from Harlem. My grandfather was a member of the UNIA in Harlem, and that would have been around the 1920s. So very important in time. What you could see at that time was a visible presence of the organization in the form of services to the community, stores that people could patronize, could go to, that had things that they needed. We are at a point now where that's what we have to focus on as well. And that is, talk about economics, and people tend to think just in terms of capitalist accumulation, of currency, what they call wealth. Actually, it's for us, it's got to be much more than that, much deeper than that, and in some cases not even about huge profits and so forth, but about how we relate to each other and how we service our nation. That's nation building. And that's what is the building blocks of sovereignty, and that's what Marcus Mosiah Garvey knew. And so you would have these stores, the universal laundry, restaurants and so forth, clothing stores. That is something which not only brings people, but it has a place for them to go. And in doing that, that is concrete nation building. We're at a point now where we need that thrust badly. That's what I see as the building blocks of sovereignty. Sovereignty is self-government. So when I talk about sovereignty, it's not some strange kind of theoretical thing. It is clearly what Garvey was talking about, and said why we need a government of our own. Sovereignty is being able to exact sanctions against those who would threaten the well-being of our people. Sovereignty is obviously self-definition and so forth. And so we've got to be about building now. We've got to be about building those things which make up a nation. As Nana John Henry Clark told us, it's got to be about nation building has to be about learning how to manage a nation. So he talked about education as being about nation management. Sovereignty is a word that we don't use enough, an idea that we don't use enough, a concept that we have to get really used to, and it's about power. And that's what we have to be about. It's how do you build power and consolidate the power of African people throughout the world as one people. So that's why you have Garvey saying and giving us the slogan of one God, one aim, one destiny, because that represents the consolidation of our power. Now, it's one thing to talk about the past and excuse me, what he did. But it's another thing for us to take up that mantle and to actually make it happen again. And that's what's necessary at this point, because clearly, if we look at the state of Africa and we look at those resources which belong to us as a people, and if we have a bold ideology and action based on a race-first ideology, then we know that we have to do nothing less than take back the continent of Africa, to take back the motherland. And I mean, he saw this and made it so clear. So we have Africa for Africans at home and abroad. So it shouldn't be really much of a question about what we mean by sovereignty or what it is that we're supposed to be organizing about. We've been given a black print, so to speak, by Garvey and by the UNIA-ACL, and so it's our job now to make all of that happen, because we lost all of it by not listening, by not following, by the weakness in leadership that came after Garvey. We lost the motherland.
Tena Mama Marimba. Very, very profound words, and very, very true as well in terms of where we're at now as a people. I mean, our main subject, our title is, does Garveyism really provide solutions to the challenges we face as a race? And in some of what you've said there, clearly there are solutions under the banner of, for want of a better term, Garveyism. We can actually move forward. So you mentioned tangibly in terms of a more of a physical presence in terms of stores, in terms of developing again that sort of collective business acumen. What other areas of sovereign development will you be focused on? Because obviously there are so many different areas that we do need to take charge of. So
actually, we're talking about totality. We're talking about a way of life. We're talking about a social order that is explicit in terms of the values of the people, the concepts, beliefs that we live by. And then that generates, in turn, a social structure. And the social structure is made up of every single aspect of a people's life. That's what it means to be a nation. And we're talking about a world order,
right,
that is conceived of, controlled by, created by African people, by a race of people. And that has to be the concept that we have of ourselves. It has to be, you see, the thing is that was so phenomenal about Garvey was he looked around, he traveled a lot. He observed. He assessed the situation that his people were in. He didn't say, well, we need a hospital. We need a newspaper. He said, we need a government.
Right.
Come on, Mama Marimba.
For the well-being of its people.
Come on, speak on it.
And it administers the institutions that the people built. You see, and to do that, you need to have vision. And I'm feeling that leadership now, organizers now, they lack vision. And so that's the first question that I ask. And when I say ours, I mean our people throughout the world. I'm not talking specifically about UNIA. But UNIA has a legacy, you see, of visionary leadership. And so to say, okay, well, what areas are we talking about, or where should we do this, or what should we do? The vision has got to be the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I tell people.
Right.
You know, I don't want a piece of this and a piece of that.
Okay.
The whole thing.
All right.
That's what we have to want for our people.
Received and understood, Mama Marimba.
Be visionary.
Can I just ask?
Start from there.
Okay.
And then you kind of move to, well, how do we do that?
Right.
What are the steps?
Okay.
And clearly, we've got to build institutions. We've got to build these services. I mean, Garvey worked on a local level, so you had all of these stores in Harlem, and he worked on the macro level, the largest level possible. Now let's look at, for instance, the Black Star Line. I think that people misunderstand that. I don't see the Black Star Line as primarily being an economic venture. If you look at it, actually assess it, you know, after the fact, you could even see it, you would see it as a failure in that sense. I don't see it as that at all. What Garvey was doing was connecting us to each other on a global level. That was the intent. And creating an entity that African people could buy into. And they did. I mean, my grandfather did. Had shares in Black Star Line. And when Black Star Line ran into trouble and had all that difficulty, and there was under another name, it was reinstituted in spite of the fact of the failure, which you could say that people, lost money and so forth. People reinvested. People bought new shares. It was supported again because of what it meant to us as a people in terms of having something which was our own and being able to look into the future and see what it could be. Connecting us to the motherland, connecting us throughout the Caribbean. I mean, these ideas, you see, I'm saying that we have to think big. And it's the UNIA that is in a position to think that way. So people within it have got to be clear, have got to study, have got to be bold, have got to be courageous, because it's all of that we got from Garvey. And for me to be involved,
Mama Marimba, sorry to interrupt you. Mama Marimba, can you hear me?
That's what we have to do.
Mama Marimba?
Yes.
Right, okay. Thank you very much for that. Mama Marimba, some of the things you spoke about in terms of an entity that the people could buy into. Now...
Okay, my phone is going out, so I'm going to have to pick up another phone.
Okay.
In the meantime, I'm not able to hear, so that will take me a minute to get to this other phone.
All right, we'll be back with you shortly, Mama Marimba, and thank you very much for the time being. Tenda Mradi.
Because we are,
Hello?
and because we are, therefore I am.
Hello?
Mama Marimba?
Yes.
Yeah, we're having a short. I can hear you. Tenda Mwari. Welcome back, Mama Marimba. Right. Right. What I wanted to find out from you when you referred to an entity that the people could buy into. Now, bearing in mind what has been happening in the United States in particular, the liquidation of African men and women, young men and women, and men and women of all generations being liquidated on the streets by the police. Obviously, that has always been the case, but obviously it's more with social media, etc. It's becoming more evident to us on a larger scale.
Right.
Clearly, there needs to be something to get African people. I'm just speaking specifically in relation to the U.S. What methods are you going to use to help to mobilize the people in terms of buying into this particular entity called the UNIA?
First of all, I wouldn't bunch those two things together. I don't want to talk about the entity so much as interesting that you should raise what's been going on, because I've been thinking about that and was just thinking about it. If you look at the history of when Garvey was organizing UNIA and its heyday, and you look at the 20s, there were mass meetings, there were discussions, there were writings and so forth about the prevalence of lynching that was going on. And that was able to pull out a lot of people to come to these meetings and to organize. And I was thinking about that. So here we have lynching that's going on now at an incredible rate. And I'm not seeing, except from the young people who are just, they're responding without the kind of clarity that we need, but they are doing what they need to do. But in terms of organizations, I don't feel that we are actually using, what is happening now to raise the level of consciousness, to inculcate people with a race consciousness, which is key. Because without a race consciousness, you see, we are in danger of extermination. I don't think people believe that. But Garvey said that. John Henry Clark said that. But that's a real possibility. And I do believe that the enemy is testing the waters, that they are looking at, okay, how much can we do? How do we do this? Because that's a part of social engineering, which was that whole experimentation with social engineering, which coming out of the Tavistock Institute, which is there in England where you are, was to see how you could manipulate large groups of people and disrupt their social order that in such a way as to incapacitate them as a political force. And so after Euro War II, they began heavily to manipulate societies, actually. And that's what's going on now. And we need to be studying, we need to be assessing, and we need to be organizing, and we need to be thinking in terms of how should we organize in such a way as to, preempt them from being able to destroy our sense of who we are as a social grouping, certainly as a racial group, as a race, and we're not doing that. We're doing business as usual, and of course, not happy about the fact that they are killing us. But we're not developing a strategy, I don't think, that takes all of that into consideration, uses it, and thinks in terms of African power. So the young people are doing what they can, which is they are in protest mode. Protest mode is not going to do what we need to have done as a people. I was wondering if they are also using this strategy, that is the enemy using this strategy in the UK. Where are other places that they are doing this? In U.S., it's clear. In U.S., it's a militarization of the police force. It is generally becoming so clearly a fascist society. So we have to, how do you function in a fascist society? Clearly, we're going to have to, as long as we are within somebody else's social order, we are colonized. You can't have, you're not a nation if you're not certainly not a sovereign nation within somebody else's social order. And the reality is that's where we're at.
Okay, Mama Marimba, it has been an absolute pleasure hearing from you. I'm going to bring in Brother Leader Mbandaka to have a quick interaction with you. Tendai Mwari, Brother Leader.
Tendai Mwari. Giving thanks and praises once again for Mama Marimba Ani's presence on the airways this evening. This is such a profound blessing for all of us here in the studio, and I'm sure brothers and sisters at home. And I know Mama Marimba is a self-effacing kind of person. Doesn't like to big up herself or throw herself to the forefront. Doesn't like a lot of praise and fanfare, but I think we want to take this opportunity just to let you know, definitely, Mama Marimba, and to let the world know how much we value you, how much we love you, how precious we find.
I appreciate it.
How precious we find your work and your spirit. Now, my son, my eldest son, I've got 4 of my own. And within our movement, we have a number of other children. And you've been to this country as a family guest, a relative from abroad whom we have had the honor to host some years ago. And you had close interaction with them. And I know my oldest son is just blown away by you. Mama Marimba, Mama Marimba, Mama Marimba. He loves your work and he calls your name all the time. And I know he's at home listening now, and he'll be very, very excited and very moved. And I want to thank you in particular. We refer to you. Now, we know that you define yourself as a cultural scientist, and that is what you are. But in addition to that, we regard you to be our spiritual mother. And we've asked for permission to do that, and you've given us your permission to do that. And so we continue to, when we call your name, and we do call your name a lot, we refer to you as our spiritual mother. So it's good to have our spiritual mother on our show this evening. And in particular, I want to thank you for the emphasis, the Garveyite emphasis that you have given to the concept of sovereignty. Our people really reorientating our mindset and our vision to accept nothing less than supreme authority over our own lives. Total control.
You know, I didn't have an opportunity to talk about my other work because that's really, you know, part of everything. It's a whole thing together.
Absolutely.
The whole package. But we've been doing what we call Abakasim Sunsun, which is the spirit of history. It's actually more than that, but we honor Nana John Henry Clark. This happens on the first Saturday in May every year. Started in 2004, and we actually what is developing and has developed is what it means to call on the spirits of our warrior ancestors.
Word sound.
That is there's an energy that they had.
Absolutely.
And our belief in ancestor communion is that they want to help us. They want to be there.
Absolutely. Mama Marimba, sorry to interrupt you.
I just call them and then not do anything.
Yeah. Mama Marimba, sorry to interrupt you.
Been
Mama Marimba?
And actually practicing is what I call African spiritual warfare.
Tendai Mwari, Mama Marimba?
And we have a Pan-African shrine, which is about that. It's about sovereignty. It's about strengthening us as warriors for African people with a race-first ideology. But my work has been, to a large extent, is to show and convince us, our people, that spirit is very practical and that it is political. So that our spiritual beliefs should not be seen as being separate from our political ideology. And it's real, it's a force, and we have to develop and use that force.
Okay, Tendai Mama Marimba,
Yes.
I'm so sorry that we have to stop you in your flow, but we have to interview Baba Senghor, President General, straight after you, and it's been a pleasure having you on this evening. We hoping in the future, not in the recent future, we'll be able to have you for a whole show where we can really flesh out some of this, the work that you're doing, to get a deeper understanding.
Okay, and I'd like to get a copy of a tape of this. If you tell me how to get it.
Yeah.
You can call me back and we can talk about it.
We can, yeah. That won't be a problem. Thank you so much, Mama Marimba, for having you for your participation this evening.